by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show. Let me ask you a question, y'all. If you knew of somebody that was wrongly convicted, I'm talking about you knew it without a doubt, and you could prove it in some kind of way, maybe a small way, would you say something? Would you say something that would help somebody else in a situation that could possibly jeopardize your own safety? Would you say something? That's the question I'm going to put to all of y'all that are listening today, because this story is about this guy. He one of the guys that I know that was confronted with this issue. And I'm going to tell you his story, right? And this guy's name is, we're going to call him Bill, right? And he one of the folks, and he was a cellmate with this guy named Carl. Okay? And Carl was hardcore brother. You know what I'm saying? He was all the way, like we say, GD crazy and all of this stuff, right? And he believed in the lifestyle. He believed that, like, no matter what, you stand on what the org is talking about. That's that on that. And he expected all the brothers that he was around to be the same way. And in that, it allowed Carl to be able to talk freely about whatever it was that was going on with him in front of the folks, because he felt like if all of the brothers are on the same thing he's on, then he's safe with whatever he had to say about any issue whatsoever. But there was this dude named Allan. Allan was a peon, okay? Allan was a peon. He had gotten locked up. He got found guilty for a second-degree murder, right? They charged him with first-degree murder, but when he went to trial, the jury found him guilty of second-degree and not first-degree murder, right? And this incident that happened in their hometown and so on and so forth, right? Now, all three of these brothers come from the same hometown, right? Now, here's the thing. Allan claimed his innocence from day one. From the time he got arrested to the time he went to trial, and even after they had found him guilty, he stood up in front of the judge and he said, "I didn't do this. I'm not guilty of this." Yes, he was in the streets hustling, getting money and all of those types of things, but he never got involved in the violent side of things. You know, he would get ghosts whenever something like that would happen. But one night, he found himself in the situation where he left, but when he left after the fact. And an argument happened up on the block, you know what I'm saying, and these two guys got into it or whatnot, and it turns out that the guy got killed. This guy got killed, you know what I'm saying, and everybody got ghosts. Everybody ran, okay? And Allan did the same thing. But a couple of weeks later, the police bumped down and they arrest Allan and charge him with the murder, saying that they have evidence, people that have given statements. Now, some of the guys that was up on the block, that was also in the streets, they gave statements against Allan and said that they saw him arguing with this dude, you understand? And then all of a sudden the dude gets shot and everybody runs. Now listen, pay attention to what I just said. They said they saw him arguing with the dude, and then all of a sudden the dude gets shot and everybody runs, right? So they charged Allan based off of this evidence, and they charged him with first-degree murder. Now, he had a reputation with the police for being in trouble all the time, you know, but it was drug stuff. You know what I mean? It was never anything violent. So when they went to question him, I'm talking about the detectives, when they went to question him, you know, they played the role like they always played. Now look, okay, make it easy on yourself. You know, we know this is not you. It had to be something that happened to make you do this, because they knew his history of just being a drug dealer, a non-violent offender. So they trying to play him like that, and he's telling them, I didn't do this. I don't know why y'all arrested me. I didn't do this, so on and so forth. And he did like a lot of people. He used his history as an alibi or potential alibi or an explanation to why he wouldn't have done that. He said, y'all know I just sell dope. I just sell dope. See, that's when he had gotten desperate. He's willing to admit to being a drug dealer to the police. He admitted that he was up on the block selling drugs to the police. That's how desperate and afraid he had gotten. So it's like, I'd rather get found guilty or get charged and put in jail for selling drugs than murder. So they didn't want to hear it though. They said, nah, we got you. And the best way for you to not get put away for the rest of your life is to confess. And then the DA, we'll talk to the DA about how you cooperated and see if we can get a lower sentence for you. They popped the whip on him. He didn't want to hear it because he didn't do it. He did not want to hear it because he did not do it. So here's the thing. Along the course of this time, Carl is on the streets too. He's on the streets and he hustles and all this and that, and all the things that he does, but he's on that violent stuff too. He runs in those circles. They robbing and everything. They shooting it out with people, all this and that, right? Some of the folks now, you know what I'm saying, in this particular part of town. So Carl running in those circles, he hears about what happened up on the block the other week. He knows what happens. Like the streets know what happened. Now everybody knows that Allan didn't do this. Everybody knows it. Now they don't necessarily know, not everybody necessarily knows who did it, but they know he didn't do it. So nobody comes forward. Nobody comes forward. None of the people in the streets come forward. But Allan's family, everybody saying that he wouldn't have done this. This is not him. He's not that type of person. They're saying all of those types of things because they're true. He wasn't a violent person, right? Carl ends up getting locked up. Carl ends up getting locked up. He get about a 30-year sentence because he been out there robbing people, selling drugs, anything he could do to get money. Now he's in the penitentiary. Now he's in the cell with folks Bill, right? And they in the cell together, kicking and blase, what. Right? Now time passes. Time passes. Allan goes to trial. When he goes to trial, his lawyer even was trying to get him to confess. His lawyer didn't even believe him. But even though his lawyer didn't believe, his lawyer fought. His lawyer fought. He stood up there in front of that jury and he said, they have no physical evidence whatsoever. They don't have a weapon. They don't have an eyewitness. They got some people saying, two street dudes that have questionable records, saying that they saw him arguing with this dude, and the next thing you know, he gets shot and everybody scatters, including Allan. Guess what? Jury comes back after 3 days of fighting it out. After 3 days of presenting the evidence, the jury goes out and they come right back within a couple hours, guilty as charged. But not for first-degree murder. They found him guilty for second-degree murder. Found him guilty for second-degree murder and give him 25 years. Pop, he's gone. He's on his way. He hit. But before he's sent away, he goes back to the jail, he comes back to the courts, and he's sentenced. And during his sentencing phase, the victim's family gets to stand up and make their victim's impact statement. And they told him how he had destroyed their lives and taken somebody that they loved, which is all true. And he stood there and he listened to them, and tears rolled down his face. His mother, his girlfriend, his brother, they're all sitting behind him and they're looking at him and they're like feeling the pain for the victim's family, but they're feeling the pain for their loved one as well, because he's saying he didn't do this. He's saying he didn't do this. And they've been talking to people that were there, that were in the streets, that didn't go to the police, that didn't come to testify on his behalf, that said they know he didn't do it. They know he didn't do it. But the streets wouldn't talk. The streets wouldn't help him, other than these other two dudes that came forward with this evidence of hearing them argue. So now it's time to be sentenced. And even though he had never done anything violent, he had a record of being caught for sale and distribution of drugs, right? So all of that went into the pre-sentencing report. It gave the judge, the information that he needed to process and to decide if he was going to give him 25 years. That's what the max is on if you go to trial for second-degree murder. So he could have given him less than that. But because of his prior felony convictions, the judge felt it necessary to hit him with 25 years at 85%. 85%. So he got to do 20 plus years, about 21 years, something like that, before he gets out. He already in his late 20s. So he's going to be in his late 30s. Now he's going to be in his late 40s when he get out. And he's looking back at his mom and he's crying and all this and that. And he's saying to the court, he's yelling it out. I didn't do this. He's saying to the victims, I'm sorry about what happened to your loved one, but it wasn't me. And they're looking at him stern-faced. And that's understandable because they believe what the DA has told them. They believe that he's the one. So they're not looking at him with any compassion or sympathy. Now the mother of the victim, she's crying. But she's crying because of the process that she's gone through. It's taxing. It's a lot when you go through a trial. And now, in her mind, it's over. And tears poured out. So Allan gets sent out to jail, to prison. Now he's in prison. Now Carl, for whatever reason, he tripping with bro. You feel what I'm saying? Now Allan, he's not the business. He a peon, right? But he wants to trip with him. Every time he see him, he calls him a sucker. He talk crazy to him, all this and that. And Bill and some of the other guys, they looked at it like, he just being hard on him because he a peon. You know what I'm saying? But Allan ain't going. He had a reputation in the hood for he'll stand up. He just ain't pulling no pistol. He ain't that type of dude, but he'll fight. He ain't no coward. But for some reason, Carl was always hard on him. Always hard on him, treating him like he really just a real sucker, like he wasn't even from the hood. And a lot of the guys, they didn't understand that. So they telling him, man, stand down, man. Leave bro alone, man. He ain't done nothing. Because they know, like the streets know, man, this brother in here, it shouldn't be in here for this. So some of the old heads, they get together and they tell him, look, man, you need to get in that library and find something to get back up in that courtroom, man. Because everybody know you didn't do this. Everybody knows it. And he's finding some solace in the fact that people know he's in there wrongly. But at the same time, it makes him sick in his stomach because he knows he has to deal with this. He has to deal with it. So he's adapting to the environment. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to adapt and not lose his mind because he's going to be here for a while. It's just that on that. That's how it works regardless, innocent or guilty. You got to be here, and then you got to fight it out on appeal. And most appeals on the state level take 12 and a half years to work its way through. Now, sometimes you might get a little play, but that's rare. And then even if you do get something through the courts, it still takes, you know what I'm saying, like I say, 12 and a half years, and then 98% of all appeals fail, period. So the fight is tight. If you don't come in there with something compelling, an eyewitness, somebody that can say it wasn't him, and that person has to have credibility or be able to, the state and whoever's trying to help him has to be able to verify what that person is saying. It's not as simple as somebody coming forward and saying, no, he didn't do it. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. So he's in the library every day and he's fighting his case, and a lot of the guys that have been in the penitentiary a long time, that worked in the law library, they're hearing about his situation, so they want to help him. They're combing over the transcripts, trying to find anything that could turn the tide for him, that can give him some hope. Because they've seen this too many times, and then you have somebody that come into prison like that, and then they lose hope, then all of a sudden all types of things start to happen in their lives. They start getting hooked on drugs, they start behaving in situations, you know what I'm saying, that they normally wouldn't get involved in, and they're in and out of the hole, and they're just acting out because they're disgusted with what just happened to them. You understand? And most people don't get that. because most people would never go through this in this way. But everybody has been through something. So if you can try to relate what you've been through when somebody has been mistreated you and done you wrong to his situation, then you can kind of sort of understand what he was going through. So one day, Carl and Bill, they in the cell, they drinking, smoking, getting high and all this and that. And like I say, that liquor, you know what I'm saying, that liquor, man, I'm telling you now, that liquor make you get loose at the lips. I'm telling you, they get some of that old cook-off up in here, you know, they make that cook-off up in here. You know what I'm saying? That white lightning. And it got Carl loose at the lips. So Carl started running his mouth to Bill, telling Bill, you know what I'm saying, he know Allan didn't do it. First of all, Bill is wondering, man, why is this dude's name always in your mouth? Why is his name always in your mouth? You act like you got something against this dude, right? You know, that's what Bill says to him. He's like, nah, it ain't even that, man. You know, he said, I look at him like, man, he a real sucker, man. He, you know what I'm saying, he coming up in here and all this and that. That man, he ain't do that. But then, you know, he should have done something. And then Bill looks at him like, what was he going to do? Same situation any of us would have been in. Once you get charged, you got to go to court. He didn't plead. He didn't cop no plea. He said, but he could have took a plea, man. They offered him a plea and whatnot and talking about reducing the time, but he didn't want to take no plea. And Bill told him, Bill said, man, if I ain't do it, I wouldn't have took a plea either. Why would he plead guilty to something he didn't do? And then Carl looking at him like, man, you tripping too. Because at the end of the day, now he got to do 25 years. But see, what was really going on, it was Carl's conscience was eating him up. It was eating him up. And he felt like if Allan would have took a plea, he wouldn't be in here for as long as he's going to be in here. And that's bothering Carl more than Allan, actually. Because Carl is like, I know he didn't do it. And let me tell you something. The reason Carl knows that he didn't do it is because one of his stick-up kid partners is the one that did it. It's one of his partners that did it. That ain't the folks. But one of his peon partners that he runs around with on the street, the stick-up kid. They run in packs like wolves. And he knows he's the one that did it. And he's having a hard time dealing with his own conscience because he know this man is innocent, but the streets dictate that he say nothing. The streets dictate it, and it's eating him up. It's eating him up from the inside out. So Bill is sitting there listening to this story that he's telling him about he know who did it. So Bill says to him, he said, man, why ain't you helping him then? And Carl was like, man, I'm not getting in that, man. Man, that's snitching. Not finna do that, man. But he said, man, if you know that man didn't do it, you need to be doing something to help him so he can get out of here and get back to his family. So they can deal with the issue as they need to deal with it. Carl ain't hearing that. He ain't trying to hear none of that. Because even if I don't think that's snitching, you feel what I'm saying? But the streets, man, look here. Any kind of conversation with the police can be detrimental to you. And then Carl is the folks. If he says something to anybody, you know what I'm saying, in law enforcement about this issue, they want a name. They want to know how you know. And see, all of that type of cooperating with the police, even though he might be doing the right thing morally, a lot of people will take that type of conversating with the police. It's too cozy. You talking to them too much. And why are they even listening to you? You must have talked to them before. All of those types of things would happen. So it causes the water to be muddy. It causes you not to be able to do the right thing in a situation where it calls for you to do the right thing. Or than that, this person's going to be here for 21 plus years. So what does he do? What does he do? He's conflicted. He ain't sleeping good. He's mistreating Allan every time he sees him because he thinks Allan is a sucker for not taking a plea for something he didn't do so he wouldn't be locked up a long time. He wishes he would have took a plea, got a little time, got out, and this case could move on and nobody would know the wise and he could rest and sleep at night. He's made this whole situation about him and not about the victim, which is Allan. one of the victims. He made it about him. And he twisted everything around. And now he's acting out towards Allan. And Allan don't know why. Allan don't have a clue as to what's going on. He don't have a clue. But now, Carl's got a decision to make. Because Bill ain't about that. Bill a stand-up dude. And Bill got a life sentence. And he ain't trying to be around somebody that would knowingly let somebody spend 20 plus years of their life in the penitentiary for something that they didn't do. He looking at Carl in a whole different twisted way now. He don't see Carl as being straight no more. He don't see him being straight no more at all. He said he ain't being 100. You feel me? And Bill is a street dude. But he don't see it the way Carl is seeing it. And the reason Bill don't see it that way is because he's been locked up for a while on this life sentence. And a life sentence will make you change the way you see things, y'all. Because see, his opportunity to get another chance at living life outside of prison is limited, very limited. And when the opportunity does present itself, he's going to be an old man. So he's looking at it like, if I were in that situation, what would Carl do? Of course, Carl would say, yeah, I would help him. But Bill don't believe that because he's letting this person over here that didn't do it, he knows didn't do it, letting him sit in here. And making up these amendments to the code. That's what I say. A lot of people, they make up all these amendments to the street code to appease their own consciousness so they don't have to step up and do the morally right thing. And that's what's going on right now. But see, here's the check. Here's the check on that. Now that Bill knows, Bill is thinking how he can take that information and use it to his advantage. But you're going to have to tune into the next episode to see how Bill takes this information and having to decide what he's going to do with it. You feel me? So y'all tune into the next episode to see what happens in this situation. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I've been trying to breathe underwater.